Welcome everybody to another StarCraft 2 broadcast here from the LastPlayerStanding.com's SC2 Open number 3. I am Anharis, and today our players are going to be Obsidian, who is actually Inori, the red Protoss over on the left side of the map, against Gosuuser, the blue Zerg on the right, on Antigua Shipyards. This is the second match in the quarterfinal round, and this is going to be a best of 3 total. So Gosuuser definitely has to step up his game a notch if he wants to stay in this. There's going to be a lot of pressure on this side of the map, but likewise, Inori, like I said in game number 1, is currently undefeated, not only in this tournament, but in the previous one as well. So he has a massive win streak going for him right now. And, you know, statistically speaking, man, it's got to break at some point. We'll see what happens if this is the game. Maybe Gosuuser can take a win, put an end to the streak, and push it to game number 3. You'll just have to wait and find out. Now, game number 1, I think, was a very, very interesting match. Gosuuser did a good job handling that Phoenix harassment. You know, the Protoss was actually very successful in terms of taking off a bunch of drones, a bunch of overlords, etc. But Gosuuser just kept on droning really hard, pushed through it, did not overcommit defense, just made a couple queens, couple spore crawlers, and he played pretty much standard otherwise, getting several infestors, hydras, roaches, etc. The problem came, I think, with that attack and dealing with the high yield expansion. It went down, yes, and that's fine, but the problem was the force fields kept almost the entire Zerg army out of range of the Colossi, and so what happened was the Protoss was able to just piece apart the army bit by bit. A couple fungals landed, but just great force field placement allowed Inori to take the victory and move on here to game number 2. So we are now opening up here with Inori going with a Forge expand. We're going to see this probably drop in just a second as his money is approaching that critical 400 mineral mark. Likewise, the Protoss is also trying to deny the expansion up here as long as possible. Did not commit a pylon to it. Sometimes you'll see players do it, sometimes they don't. Just kind of all comes down to style and what they're trying to do here. But having already laid down his expansion before his opponent, he's probably feeling in a pretty comfortable position letting this one go. So with it now having gone down, we take a look back here. We see, okay, a spawning pool. That's great move. I mean, again, you're not likely to see these Zerglings commit to an attack down here, because of the fact that, yes, they're pretty difficult to maneuver through tight spaces without that speed upgrade, and unless you're trying to commit to just some super early one-base attack, and we don't see that happening here. Inori, I'll read it and say another, is going ahead, very defensive style. He's got the cannon up already. It's not going to be that difficult for him to wall this off in case of an emergency. And up here, we might see this metabolic boost upgrade coming in the near future here. Certainly, I'm sure it'll be incorporated at some point in the build. But these Zerglings are pretty much just going to be used for watchtower control and defensive play, like trying to stop a probe right here from blocking off what looks like a third expansion. But the Protoss knows this is going to be going down. That's actually really crucial information, because now Inori can plan around that. The Zerg player is not wrong for taking this expansion, though. This is a good map to take a early third. It's obviously quick to get to, you know, relatively easy to protect, and I think that can work in Gosuuser's favor, as long as the Protoss does not try to punish that. But look at what's going down here. He has 2 additional gateways dropping, and we do not see a cybernetics core. I'm actually looking around before I say that because I just want to make sure. No, definitely no cybernetics core, just 3 gateways. He's going to be looking to try to punish that, and I'm really curious to see how it actually takes place, because, you know, pretty wide open ramp right here. The Protoss could try to wall it off. Cannon, if he wants to, could also try to maybe draw the Zerg player out of the base, then wall it off. There's any number of things he could do. I'm not going to try to theory craft on that, but essentially, the Protoss has several options here that are available to him. Gosuuser, on the other hand, we see he's still basically just dealing with Zerglings. Now, with three warp gates or gateways producing zealots, chrono boosted, mind you, there's going to be a lot of early pressure. So with the cybernetics core on the way, we can expect to see warp gates starting here in a couple moments. But in the meantime, we see several Zerglings actually starting to head out. This is pretty much just going to be a scouting party. seeing if he can check out the what is waiting for him at the watchtower. Of course, he's going to come over here and see these two zealots and think, oh man, do not want to engage that, especially the probe coming. Now the probe is indicative of the continued pressure. He knows, I think he knows. Let's see. Cannons? Yeah, okay, he knows about that. He knows the Protoss can drop down some cannons. I was about to say, I knew I saw him scattering earlier, but I wanted to be sure. He knows those cannons are there, so he's probably expecting some type of pressure with that probe coming up here. Again, just little things you can kind of gather from being aware of your environment. Losing this queen would actually be a pretty substantial loss in the early match, as that is 150 minerals that could be going to drones or roach or zerglings, anything other than another queen. So great positioning there by Inori. You see he's actually got one zealot that is currently out of the fight, but I think he's going to be able to hold his own here. Dropping another pylon. This is going to create a nice choke point. Can the zealot last long enough to keep these zerglings away and allow this probe to survive? We're not seeing, oh man, one zergling left versus one probe with one zealot reinforcements. He is going to try to hold on to it, but no. We're going to see these cannons go down. Gosuuser and is in a little bit of trouble. Now keep in mind the creep is spread far enough to prevent cannons from getting too close, but this cannon is actually going to be going down, sacrificing a lot of drones to get it though. And will it be worth it? Oh man, second cannon has popped up now as well, as this cannon has now able to drive away the last of the drones, leaving Gosuuser in a very awkward position for economy. 47 to 41. So he has dedicated a lot of larvae to drones in the early game, but has ended up losing a ton of them as Inori continues to press forward, now transitioning into a stalker base build. We're going to see him continue to put a lot of pressure. He's basically the reason he went with these stalkers, because they're able to provide a lot of support firepower while being close to the cannons. So if he needs to get tucked away over here or hang out down here, he can continue to engage the roaches and not really worry about getting outside of the range of fire of the cannons. This is going to ultimately lead to this expansion being secluded, completely isolated from the rest of the Zerg base now. So Inori has done a good job of cutting off the Zerg from that third and really punishing them for taking that extra expansion early on. So Inori down here, let's actually pay attention while we watch that expansion go down. 2 additional gateways. We see chrono-boosted upgrades on the way. Armor 1, good choice there. And we also have 3 additional warp gates as well as a Twilight Council. This expansion just about gone. There it goes, folks. So with this Twilight Council on the way, I think what we're going to see, one of two things here. We're either going to see Blink, which I think would be the more likely since a lot of gas has already gone into these Stalkers. We could also see a transition into Dark Templar. Again, the fact that looking around Zerg right now, he does have tier 2. That's fine. He can get Overseers, but you'll notice there's no Spore Crawlers. So Zerg is going to have to commit another 50 gas to that, which if Protoss can pressure enough, he can really start to make those Dark Templar pay for themselves. Again, that's the lesser of the 2 likely scenarios. We, of course, do have that Blink upgrade on the way now. Getting back to that. So we'll see what happens in regards to that play, as it is not being chrono boosted. A lot of energy actually builds up there as we continue to keep an eye on the Protoss force up there at the top, just staying outside of the base. One pylon actually going down. I think it was just getting in the way of the gas right there. Yeah, he even has 4 harvesters on it right now just to maximize that income. Having that gateway slightly out of position is going to cause him to have to do that. But it's okay, because now he's got a third coming up now and is in a pretty darn good spot overall. Keeping the Zerg player contained on this 2-base play, he is basically just forced to go tons and tons of roaches. Now, keep in mind, he does, I believe, have the roach speed. We'll keep an eye on that in just a second. 12 additional roaches, 13 on the way. So really committing to this roach build. Let's see if we can find that Warner. I think he's got it. Yeah, he does. So, okay. Overall, I think actually Zerg is in a little bit of a weaker spot right now, but keep in mind he does have a whole bunch extra supply and these low tier units, and he does have the drop upgrade as well as Overlord speed. So he's also got Burrow, that's good, but Blink now finish is going to make it a little bit more difficult for these roaches to deal with these Stalkers, but still, there are so many roaches here that he's just going to be able to swarm his opponent, force him back out of the base here, out of the range of cannons, which he's trying to use to his advantage. And now we have the Overlords coming down as well, providing some additional targets as well as quick support to lift those off. I'm really curious to see what he's going to be doing with that. He does not have a Baneling nest for Zergling, Baneling drops, anything of that sort. I think he might actually just go straight for a Roach drop in the base, bypassing those Stalkers entirely. Now we see the Protoss actually starting to get an idea, hey, why are you bringing all those down there so quickly? A little curious about that. Oh man, actually losing a couple Stalkers there. as I think he was trying to focus fire something that was in the back. Nice blink on that area, and of course we see several more Stalkers heading over towards the north. Again, this is pretty much just him trying to cut off supply, delay for as long as possible. We do actually have this drop moving forward. Keep in mind, all the Stalkers are still hanging out down here, and there is only one pylon powering all of these structures. Blink is already researched, so that's not going to be a huge loss to lose the Twilight Council power, but 3 gateways, that is a pretty big deal. So it's going to really be important for the Protoss player to not lose any of these forces. Gosuuser has basically just got to do as much economic damage as possible while engaging the army, keeping it at bay. He does have terrain advantage, that's good. Hit a little bit better of a concave, and obviously the burrow as well going to help him, but the problem is there's an observer right there, and so that's not really going to be a tactic that he can use for too long. And rather than trying to lift some of these off, it looks like he's actually just going to bring his overlords back overall. But so many Stalkers have been warped in now. Look at this. He has a fully functional third base, second base looking pretty darn good as well. And overall, I think Protoss is just going to pull slightly ahead here, as a lot of damage was done, but not a lot to the economy. See, he's able to get his warp gates functional very quickly. Not too much effort, just one pylon. His upgrades are just outstanding, though. 2-0-1, whereas the Roaches are 0-0. He has just not been able to put a lot of pressure on that base. And keep in mind, his third is still locked down, so not able to do a whole lot with that either. The Roaches try to come up, check out the third base. He spots that, but the cannons are going to be able to drive him off. And now with the inclusion of Immortals in this build, with 2 weapons upgrade, they're going to do so much damage. So Gosuuser is increasingly pressed to do some sort of damage to the economy, because that is exactly what he's fighting right now. A player who is basically able to just out-economize him. And we look at the income right now, and we can see he's ahead by 500, 69 to 39. I think one probe was just killed, possibly a scout. I don't know exactly where it was. But overall, I still think that... Oh, wait, no, that was a Zerg. I don't know what I'm talking about. He made a Hydralist in. Okay. So just got confused for a second there. 10 additional Roaches on the way. Hydras, I think, would be a good transition dealing with those Blink Stalkers, and it looks like he's still experiencing, again, the problem with his fingers. I know firsthand experience that can really help hurt your performance, so definitely not something working with him there. But we've heard about it a good bit. I feel like we should have like a saga of the fingers by StarCraft 2. There once were 10 fingers made of wood. Then they turned into bricks. The end. I think that's pretty much all I can come up with there. But definitely an epic piece of literature, nonetheless. Who says you can't be creative in video games, right? So, Inori going to be moving forward here. A couple Immortals now in the build, looking very healthy with this additional Immortal, just running back, bringing it to a total of 3. We do have that probe transfer coming over into this expansion, as well as the high yield. It looks like, oh no, he's just going to go ahead and have those mined directly from the high yield. Okay. We do have one drop getting ready to come over here into the mineral line, I'm assuming it looks like. Yeah, that's where we got it going right now. And I think that he's just committing a few Roaches there. Number one, he doesn't really want to sacrifice the amount of damage that his main force can do. He needs it for defense. But number two, you know, that style of play, that harassment, oh no, these Roaches just kind of ran into that, taking so much damage, going to be losing a lot of units there. Oh, that is not what the Zerg player needed to have at this stage of the game. But what I was going to say was this drop, it's not so much to do a lot of economic damage. I mean, yes, that's definitely a good thing, but it's to force the Protoss player to stay in his base for as long as possible and just keep him away from the natural and the third, which he's trying to get up right now. We see the Protoss actually looking to come over and take this out. Will he be able to cancel it and at least get those minerals back? And it looks like, I guess the other side of the bracket's easy. Well, that definitely sucks in that regard, but anyways, I think that our Protoss player here is just in a really great spot now. 3 bases, high yield expansion, bringing it to a total of 4. And now with this army starting to dwindle down after having lost a good number of Roaches in the center and also being contained for so long, Gosuuser is again just fighting an uphill battle, but now there's the Blink. Very, very aggressive Blinkman. You don't often see offensive Blinks into that big of an army, but he knows that he has a commanding lead in terms of supply and unit counters. He knows he can take out a lot of those Roaches very quickly with those 4 Immortals. So there's the GG from Gosuuser, bringing this game to a 2-0 victory for Inori, continuing that winning streak, man. Congratulations to him, and also Gosuuser for putting up one hell of a match set. So let's go on to the next fight and see what happens next. And let's see, Kat, do you have anything to say? Cat says, wear deodorant.